All right. Hey, everyone. We're live on LinkedIn here for our first episode of the channel chat. So we're just going to give a few minutes for people to join, and then we will get going. If you want to give us a hey in the chat, that'd be great. Love to see who's here. Hope you got your coffee with you. My mug of the day is grateful. Glad you're here. Grateful you're here. Glad to be doing this. Glad to have my guest, Marc.
Glad to be here as well, Vicki.
Give it about 2 more minutes and then we'll get going. Hope everyone's having a good day and loving the fall. Hey, Jeff, thanks for joining. Marc, I lost you. Calvin, Richard, hey. So good to see you. Thanks so much for joining us for the next 30 minutes. High value content we have coming our way. Hey, Ikram. I know it is an absolutely fall day here in the Midwest in Nebraska. It's raining, but the last couple days have been just incredible. 80 degrees in the afternoon, cool in the evenings, my favorite time of year. Everybody getting out, getting your pumpkin spice lattes. Speaking of coffee, there's Marc. All right, everyone, let's rock and roll. So thank you so much for being here. This is the channel chat with me. Y'all know who I am. For those of you who don't, Vicki Patten. I have been in the IT industry my entire career. Can I just tell you, I started selling typewriters. That was my first job in technology, and typewriters, that's what we used back then. So that shows you kind of how old I am, but I have seen everything from the PC, the local area network, wide area network, all the way to where we are today in this crazy complex world of technology. So we decided we wanted to do this on a monthly basis, this series where we're going to talk about topics that are on the tops of our minds and tops of on our customers' minds. So today we're going to dive into cloud repatriation, talk about all things going on in the world of public cloud. And my guest is Marc Paré, who's our Chief Product Officer here at Aptum and has an incredible background. So Marc, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Thanks, Vicki. Great to be here. Hi, everyone. I'm looking forward to this chat today and subsequent conversations. Feel free to hit me up on LinkedIn at any time or emails. On my background, I was post-typewriter, but I was 300 baud modem in my Apple IIe was where I first got into technology. And spent a lot of time crimping Cat5 cables to running systems. Now, thrilled to be responsible for the product offerings at Aptum and the hybrid multi-cloud journey we're on.
That's awesome. So the format today, folks, is Marc and I are going to chat a little bit about what's going on in the world of public cloud, along with throwing a little bit of VMware into there. And then we're going to open it up to questions and answers because this is really for you. We want you to be able, so you can throw your questions in the chat anytime, and then we'll make sure we turn our attention to those. So anyway, Marc, let's get rolling. Why don't you, oh, Calvin says token ring. Yeah, that brings us back, right? So let's get started. So we all know public cloud growth just has grown exponentially, especially during COVID when companies were moving their applications to the cloud, right? And the cloud at the time was the public cloud. So we also know that because of that, there's been a lot of challenges around costs, performance. So Marc, what are you hearing and seeing?
Well, first, Vicki, I think if we look back in the time pre-COVID, from the onset of cloud was such an appealing place to go. It answered so many questions that we didn't have to answer. It was all about innovation, convenience, speed of innovation. I don't know how much I'm going to need. I don't know when I'm going to need it. I don't know where I'm going to need it. And that was a real blessing for those organizations that were primarily innovating, focused on speed of innovation, and capital costs so little. Money was available to build out, and people were how to balance OPEX versus CAPEX was part of the conversation, but there was interesting solutions, and everyone had high growth expectations around their top line too, and a market opportunity. And that development focus and innovation focused around cloud usage is still really important part of the shift, which is, cloud at its root is self-serve. It's people are able to access it. It's not just the place where it's stored. But I think in this case, we're really framing it on the hyperscale cloud side. So we've seen a big drive in cloud first strategies coming up everywhere, but now everything seems to have shifted. There's a level of expectation around optimization and predictability, especially in the CIOs and CFOs of the organizations where the market conditions, the cost of capital have shifted. There's maybe less growth anticipated, or the needs of the organization to achieve that growth are well known. So there can be more planning in how to address it. Meanwhile, the cloud and public cloud in its use is still anchored on that ease of innovation and convenience, and a burstable elastic model is where it has, I'd say, its maximum value. I remember back in the day, it was like own the base, rent the peaks was a conversation around how to use cloud. Make sure you commit to the base and you've got it, and then you rent the peaks. And I think we've gone into an all-in on public cloud strategy in the past where people are now feeling, hey, when I use the pricing calculator, it was going to be X and now it's 2X. And as we're having more people using it and self-serving, it's becoming 3X because there's not like a ceiling to the capacity. It is limitless. So I feel that cloud first element is really shifting to becoming a conversation about how to do cloud right from a customer point of view. And at the same time, the hyperscalers, the public cloud, they're shifting from an era of free access and a lot of onboarding and a lot of funding to help partners and customers migrate to the cloud. They're moving now towards a mode of stretching out their amortization period and how long they're using hardware, which is increasing the profits that they can take. Right. It's a different phase for them. They're adopting a lot of efficiencies, laying people off right now, and trying to integrate AI and to help drive some of these efficiencies, meanwhile making huge investments in that AI side.
AI is the bright, shiny object right now for people in our industry and for customers. They're trying to figure out where to do that, how to do it, where are they going to get the benefit, what are the use cases. And, a big part of it for us is making sure they have the right foundation and that the right workloads and the data are in the right place in the cloud. And to your point around convenience is, it is easy to spin up public cloud instances. And so, IT sprawl, how has that impacted the use of public cloud and the cost? And, what are you seeing where they're losing those controls due to, someone in marketing spinning up, or somebody in, all the different groups within the organization?
Yeah, it's so true. I think we've heard the term shadow IT in the past, and that was originally referred to as SaaS tools being spun up and used without necessary IT's involvement. And it's like, oh, there's this new tool on a credit card and our data is sitting over there. But certainly as orgs have gotten into the self-serve of infrastructure as well, you have teams spinning up projects within organizations and putting it on credit cards, as opposed to having it in under the governance structure of the broader organization. Or even when it is under the governance structure, the visibility and traceability of who's actually using accounts to spin up isn't necessarily a mature practice in a lot of orgs. And so things get spun up and developers go on vacations, or business units have plans that shift and change, and they're focused on the new thing and forgetting about the old that's still running there. So it definitely is a challenge that I think organizations are learning to contend with, and FinOps has been a buzzword for a while in the community, but really making that practical adoption of review and planning and governance of spend is key. Cloud's a great place to experiment and to use stuff when you don't know when and where you're going to need it. But it can have a big risk. And onto the side of AI, I think one of the things we're seeing is that organizations who are really looking to do AI projects are also, their data might be in the hyperscaler, and then the availability of GPUs that they want at the right time and right size, and it isn't necessarily lined up. And so we're hearing a lot of stuff moving outside of the hyperscalers into more niche players that NVIDIA is helping see. So yeah, interesting shifts in the orgs that were all in one cloud strategy are now finding themselves having to move their data and pull stuff out based on economic and supply chain decisions.
Yeah, for sure. So going back to where you were talking about the hyperscalers, some of the shifts they're making around amortization, looking to improve, their cost position. There's a new term we've come across recently that I love. Why don't you a bit?
Well, I'm assuming the term you're referencing is enshittification.
Yes. How many of you out there have heard of enshittification? For those of you who've known me a long time, my favorite word used to be Kubernetes. My favorite word in IT was Kubernetes, which, by the way, we do very, very well here at Aptum. But this is my new favorite word, enshittification. The analogy I've been using for enshittification is Netflix. Think about our use of Netflix, right? When we first got into Netflix, it was $4.95 a month. No ads. You could watch all the movies. Today, it's closer to $20 a month. There's ads. There's certain movies that you have to pay for, right? I've been enshittified. So, and as a customer, I'm locked in, right? So Marc, why don't you take that analogy of Netflix and apply it directly to what we're seeing across the hyperscalers?
Happily, Vicki. I got to share that when I first heard this term, I was like, that's not really a word, is it? And it's actually in the dictionary now. It was coined by Cory Doctorow, a Canadian author and tech critic. And it's really entered the mainstream tech conversations. I think he is speaking at CloudFest this week. Is it this week or next?
November, first week in November.
Oh, November.
Yep.
Yeah, yep. I'm time traveling. So he's speaking soon on that. He spoke at the one in Europe. So if anyone's Googling on the word enshittification, his talk on Europe, and you'll refer to Google on it, but it actually, the definition is in the Webster dictionary. And it's like, the general idea is that a platform starts really good for users. And we all have great analogies of this. It's like whether it was Netflix or Facebook or you're looking in the hyperscaler sense, it was free tiers and generous credits and transparent pay as you go. And then there's a second phase once they start to get a user adoption. It's like, okay, well, now people want to, that'll value those users. Let me bring them in. And so you have other vendors coming in the mix. And Facebook creates all sorts of app community where a whole bunch of other vendors came in and started being able to participate in it. And in the case of the hyperscalers, they brought in the marketplaces and they had a lot of co-sell with different vendors. And then the third phase, what they're getting to is, and this is a natural cycle for tech services, is Cory's point. But you get into a phase where it's around profit taking, it's extracting more value for the originators of the platform. And I think we got those two shifts happening right now in the sense that there was so much promise in the hyperscalers and the value of cloud and not having to know how much I need, and cost of capital was low. At the same time, so that curve of quick adoption, everyone moving to it, and supply chain challenges around COVID mean I don't know if I'll be able to get someone to the data center and get hardware, but the hyperscalers have it. So there's so much of a move towards that in hyperscale environment. And now we're saying, oh, wait a second, that's ended up costing me a lot more than I planned. The egress traffic fees are way more than I imagined. And it was hard to make sense of all of this. And I'm seeing that the profit of the hyperscalers is now in a mode of taking money instead of making more investments. And it's a big shift.
Right.
So yeah, I think it's a word we've seen a lot of emotional resonance from people as they can relate to it in both the personal lives and those who are getting the bill on the cloud adoption. Feel a level of, well, that feels appropriate. Yeah.
Well, let's shift now to helping companies deal with this, the trends that we're seeing. So what is a typical process for assessing public cloud usage and the overall potential, hybrid cloud environment that the customer has?
Vicki, I think I'd start with one of the things being a statement that cloud is not a place. We use it a lot to talk about the public cloud. And I think a lot of us are using the word cloud as a place, and that's fair usage. But when we really drill down into it, the cloud is an operational model, and I can have a capacity and infrastructure I've committed to and I own that base, but I have a cloud operational model of it on top of it. So I'm doing things with automation and APIs, self-serve, enabling that into my customer base. And I think that with this journey that people are on as they're considering where a workload should sit, that it's not should I be in the public cloud or should I not? It's more that framing it of, should this workload be in the public cloud at this time in its life cycle, or should it not? And do I want to keep that optionality in the way I design and operate workloads so that I can make that decision at the right time for the organization? And I feel that one really resonates with our mission of helping customers own their destiny in the cloud. And we work on the hyperscalers, whether it be AWS, Google, Azure, Tencent, Alibaba. We've got a breadth of experience. Akamai, certainly, and really excited about their recent Linode acquisition and having their regional edge computes as well. So we'll work across any of these infrastructure service providers to support customers on their journey and look at answering, hey, where should this workload really be? And that requires having visibility on the workloads, the usage patterns, the true cost. It's not just the cost of the CPU memory and the storage. It's what's the traffic cost? What's the cost of the services it might be calling? There's even an example of AWS, Amazon Prime, ended up cutting out like 90% of the cost by switching from serverless to a monolithic VM deployment. Just a quick architecture change. They went from the pure utility base of serverless to more of a committed capacity, and they cut out a huge amount of complexity and performance and cost challenges down to like 95% reduction. And so that, just looking at that, the visibility, understanding the workloads, whether they're steady state, elastic, critical, non-critical, how much they've been coupled around the unique services of the cloud, come up and build the business case per workload. Because it's not an all or nothing. I think any organization that's really growth oriented is going to have different workloads, different cycles, living in different places.
Right. So that's so we had a question come in that just is takes us right there. Is how do you determine where those workloads should be deployed when coming out of public cloud?
So I think that the understanding the workload, the understanding the costs can help determine understanding where it's at in its life cycle, what the future plans are for it, how much certainty there is versus uncertainty. Like if we know we're going to have 90% of our capacity is going to be the same, where I need 10% elasticity, flexibility, then I may have a really interesting value prop for or TC ROI for looking at having that on private cloud. But if I have a level of high uncertainty or I need to react really quickly, and that's part of the reason why retailers were really early adopters of the public cloud, because you'd have these annual, cyclical, seasonal flash sales events. And it's like, oh, I need to have that elasticity. But that requires building the workloads and the apps in order to be able to be scaling up quickly.
Right.
So we offer repatriation assessments in helping a customer, or hybrid cloud assessments is a broader one, where someone's like more on the side of should I have it stay or should I not? And the first question is around building the business case. Is there value in changing?
Yeah. And that'll help not only IT, but also CFOs, strategy, help understand the big picture of what their cloud strategy should look like overall. And this is what I've been seeing and reading of CIO's top concerns, right? We talked about AI, cybersecurity is always top of mind, but cloud strategy is the third thing that's top of mind, top of list for CIO and CFO and CEO, especially those tech companies where their whole company is based on, the software that they provide their customers, or your customers that have the internal customers that they're providing software applications for that they're utilizing. We've got about 7 minutes left, so please pop your questions in. Otherwise, I've got a few more. did get a super important one about my mug. Where did I get my cool mug? Life is good. Probably from Shields. I don't know. I've had it forever. Shields is my favorite store on the planet. So that's probably where I got my mug.
So Vicki, I'll just riff off the AI strategy.
Yes.
I think there's an element to like, how are we using AI that can come up in orgs, and looking at using a lot of SaaS tooling that has AI built in is a great approach for rapid time to value.
Yes.
But for organizations that create their own unique data and planning to take a foundation model and use it to extract value and build around it, then a lot of this hybrid cloud strategy is really defining as well, where should that data sit and live, and what are the economics of that. And we're seeing a big lean towards people using open source models. So they have that optionality, as if you're starting to build the intelligent operations of your organization, right? AI is automating intelligence and moving into agentic, then having that done in a way that you are able to compete the vendors off of each other, as opposed to having it become a very tightly coupled, that you're basically an operator of someone else's IP, which I think we recognize that the software is eating the world, and we want to be in control of our destinies.
Yes, absolutely. And speaking of control, so once we've helped the customer identify what the environment could look like to help them meet their business goals, to help them meet their financial goals, how do we help, or how did they ensure that their new controls stay in place over time? So you're not right back, where you were 3 months ago or 6 months ago or a year ago. What does that look like?
So I think the root of that might be just having the decision around open standards and open platforms and things that can run in many places. So you're keeping your optionality present in the decision. And if I look at some of the orgs we've been working with that might be running a lot of data platform services on a hyperscaler and using a proprietary platform service from the hyperscaler, well, there are ways to deconstruct that into patterns and services that can run on-prem as well. And the developer and business operator experience of using the data tooling and services can be the same, independent of where it's running. So when we figure out there is a business case for someone to move, then how to get the workload ready to move so that they have the flexibility and ease of making future decisions of moving built into it. And a lot of orgs don't have the infrastructure and private cloud and networking and I'd call platform engineering skills in-house. They have the user skills now because they're using the hyperscalers. And so we can accompany that in a build, operate, transfer model and provide a managed service of maintaining that layer that they currently are paying for in the hyperscaler. But in a way, if they want to take it in-house eventually, we can support them in owning their destiny with that too.
Right. I love that because it really keeps the customer feeling like they have a lot of ownership still, but they get the expertise they need when they need it. So we just have a few minutes left. Any additional questions? I mean, you guys, you can always reach out to me. You can reach out to Marc, Vicki.Patten@Aptum.com, Marc.Paré@Aptum.com. Please let us know how we can help you, how we can help your customers. And we've got many more episodes coming. So be on the lookout for the one next month. And Marc, any parting words?
Well, I just hope everyone hearing the term enshittification feels increasingly uncomfortable with it, but also accepting it starts to pop everywhere I see. And we didn't touch much on Broadcom, but that's another example I think we can anchor on. We know Broadcom alternatives, and there's a lot of optionality in open source. There's a lot of things happening. There's Nutanix rising because of that. You start to see that trend very visibly. And we will have people at CloudFest, as mentioned earlier. So if you are heading there, please ping us, and we'll sure to have people connect.
All right. That's wonderful. But actually, we got a couple of additional questions. How about a real world example of cloud repatriation, including the business drivers behind moving workloads back on-prem and technical challenges faced during that? That's a long conversation, but maybe you can give a little summary of a real world example of cloud repatriation.
Well, so the enshittification tends to be an experience of cost and service side, which can drive it as well. And so there are plenty of those that we can go through. If you have pretty stable workload and consumption, you can look at like a 70% savings, but you need to have a level of scale to make it worthwhile for that if it's a cost savings one. So think of an org that's spending at least $100K a month in the cloud would be typically the workloads and that you want to size as a minimum. When it comes to other reasons for repatriation, we've seen a lot shift because their customers don't want it in a hyperscaler. So it's a digital org that's selling, or it's an org that's operating in a region, and the government say you can't have data on the citizens running outside of some local operators So there can be a whole bunch of geopolitical triggers that are usually growth revenue based. I want to capture new revenue. I need to get to that, including some related to some larger retail organizations who have strong preferences that might be competing with different hyperscalers. So there can be, it's usually a profit motive or a cost motive.
Yeah. Well, thank you. We are at the bottom of the hour. There's more questions. Let's continue the conversation on LinkedIn. Again, like I said, Kyle, we missed some of your questions because we're running out of time, but please, let's continue the conversation. Reach out to us on LinkedIn. We will be posting this on YouTube. So if you want to share it with somebody, please feel free to do that. But Marc, thanks so much for spending time with me today and helping bring a lot of your knowledge and expertise to our community. And thank you all so much for showing up today. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Vicki. Thanks all.